Alrighty. So we can get started with the actual meeting now. I'm gonna be sharing my screen, mostly just kind of sharing for if there's anybody that can't look at the screen share. It's just gonna be looking through ClickUp stuff, and like I said, the recording is gonna be in there. Okay, so welcome everybody officially to week 2 of development for Heaven Punch Team Awesome Games Incorporated. Basically, today we're kind of gonna run over, or well, go over the different well, the one program that we're going to be using to kind of track our progress with this, with everything that we're going to be doing. Just for, because I know that we do have, I believe, like two or three people that are not in the games design program. Kind of the main way that we're going to be tracking everybody's progress in this project is going to be through this program or this website called Clickup. It's basically like a task tracking software. Everybody's gonna have their own tracks that they gotta follow, and just they can click off to say when they're doing it, when they're done, and stuff like that. And the way that we're going to be measuring the different the different time frames that we're going to be working on stuff, it's something that's called sprints. And if you haven't heard about it before, it's basically 2 week periods where at the end of those 2 weeks we're going to have a set of deliverables or things that we can basically show off that we're going to have ready, something tangible that we can see, if it's like gameplay stuff that we can try out, maybe a build, maybe like a playable version of the game. Stuff with the art, just basically assets that are either completed or like a pass in the asset that we can also take a look at. Um, and basically, between in the middle of those 2 weeks, there's going to be certain different tasks that some are going to be smaller, some are going to be bigger, depending on how this sprint goes. But we're going to be talking through it every single sprint, so we can have a good idea of what we're going to be doing. First of all, these just to kind of give you guys an idea of the first sprint that we're going to be doing. This first sprint is mainly going to be about documentation and getting the character movement and basic functions working. It's going to be documentation for each single department. So we're going to have the art style guide, which is mostly done already for this beginning section. We're also going to have the technical document and the technical design document and the regular game design document. And each department is going to do those other two. After that, we're also going to be working on getting started with the art production pipeline. For example, in the art side, in the technical side, we're going to be working on the things like the player movement, the combo architecture, and just kind of getting the player feel down, first of all. And also moving on to design. Design is going to be working on the game design document, so we know everything that we're going to initially put into the game, so we can have an idea. So our coders and our artists can come back to the document and kind of see exactly what we're kind of refer to what we're doing without so much communication needing to be done if it's something that can be avoided by reading the document. For example, imagine that you're gonna be like an artist is working on a model and it's like the middle of the week. We don't have any meetings planned with the whole team, but you're kind of wondering like what does it do? You can kind of refer to the game design document and you can see like, oh, okay, this is gonna be a piece of clutter that the main character is supposed to bump into, so it should be like rounded or it should be a different kind of design. That's kind of the way that works. So yeah, just kind of going over the different ways that we're going to be moving through the project. This is going to be basically like a sprint system just for, I believe, yeah, Oxpatch that just joined us as well. And also for whoever hasn't done it yet, if you guys can put your names in general, your first and last name, preferred names are okay as well. Just so I can finish up making the contract. That'd be great. And so yeah, we can move on to kind of taking a look at the ClickUp for the project. This is just gonna be the way that we're gonna track everything in the project. So it's mostly going to be a tool for you guys to look at whenever you're feeling like a little bit lost, that you don't really know what you should be doing, or if you do know, but you want some more details on stuff. It's going to be a great place to look at to kind of go over what has to be done in the project and in the time frame that it has to be done, right? Just to give you a little introduction, whenever you go into the program and after you sign up and stuff like that and we invite you to the space, this is going to be the first screen that you see. It's not really very useful as it is right now, but the main thing that you want to keep in mind is going to be taking a look at things like the right over here on this little spaces panel, you can see that everything is divided depending on the department. So we got art, code, and tech slash design. Just to give you an idea, we're gonna take a look at the, I guess the code sprint one. So the different kind of spaces are gonna be, or lists, I guess is a better word to say it. It's gonna be with the different sprints that we're gonna be doing. Um, so right over here, I've only put sprint one since it's what we have the most kind of done already, since it's what we're working on right now and stuff. So right over here, when you click on a different sprint, it's gonna give you the list of the things that have to be done. After everybody joins, it's also gonna be the assignee, the person that has to do those tasks, or at least the main person responsible for those tasks, and the due date for the tasks that have to be done. So yeah, the way that you kind of navigate this space is going to be, you can kind of see, for example, right over here, the main thing that, for example, Susie is mainly responsible for this sprint is going to be the character controller. um, and when you click this drop down menu, you can see all the different subtasks that kind of have to do with this task, the main task over here. So you can see over here something, for example, the character movement, combo architecture, charge punch. These are just like smaller trackable tasks that each person is going to have depending on their workload. It's going to start small for most people at the beginning, and then it's going to, I mean, it can grow depending on like how much asset, how many assets, or how many mechanics we're planning to implement in set sprints, and we can always work through it. After each sprint, we're gonna kind of run over, like kind of do a little introspective for a little bit in a meeting to be like, hey, how did this go? Was it this a little bit too much work? Was it too little? Would you like to do a little bit more, a little bit less? Is there anything that we can help you with? It's always going to be changing depending on what's most comfortable for the team. Um, so yeah, just moving a little bit closer into the tasks themselves. You can see that all of them, they have this kind of Apple little task list icon that you can change depending on where you're at in the different I guess, stages of the task. For example, like we might change these a little bit more, but we have like a concept phase, in progress, running, waiting for review, or just closed. Um, and also, all of these tasks, you'll be able to click on them, and then they're gonna have a little bit of a definition. Some tasks are gonna have documents that can be looked at. For example, over here, if we move back into the art department and we go into the sprint one, there's a ton of stuff that I already set up, and there's one thing over here that is already closed. It's the art style guide. I already made this before, so basically I changed the status from anything that's open. I changed it to closed right over here. Yeah.
You are we not gonna work on the art style guide? Like, are you not gonna work on it with the team more? Or are you already done with it?
Yeah, this is just kind of like a first pass, just so I can show you, so I can show the art team, kind of like what I have in mind, and then we can keep working through it as the sprints goes. Like after we do the kind of art style practices, we're gonna settle on something that everybody is comfortable with. Definitely, it's nothing like set in stone. It's just something that we can kind of use to get started for a reference, for what we're doing.
And
So,
real quick,
mhm.
Zach, I invited you, and everyone should have been invited using the email sent in the contacts.
It
Channel.
didn't work, so
Oh yeah,
I'm.
I used your new one, the official Zell at Gmail. I sent that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Uh,
All right, so yeah, just taking a look again at the sort of task over here. For example, I've got the art style guide, it's just the name of the task. The assignee is just me, Carlos, and the due date is today. I just put that here so we can kind of take a look at, like it's a little bit easier to see. So yeah, this is gonna be like the high level date, I don't know, like status of the task. So also this one over here, since it does have, I attached the actual art style guide as a document. You can see the little icon over here, and you can just double click on it, and right over here is gonna be the art style guide. I mean, you could even like run through it over here and stuff like that. But we're gonna look at this in the art department meeting specifically. Um, but yeah, it's just kind of like a little thing to be able to track everything that each person has to do is gonna be assigned per person, and yeah, it's just the best thing that we could do in terms of like keeping track of the project is just going to be keeping track of the little statuses. Um, that's going to be the easiest way for us to be able to tell if we're on track. If you like complete something and I don't know, maybe you did it like late at night and you don't want to send anybody a message or anything like that, you can change the tag and that's gonna send most people that are like admins on the ClickUp an email being like, oh hey, for example, Susie closed down like a coding um, task. So I can be like, oh hey, or like it's waiting for review, for example. So then I can the next day, imagining that I'm working with Susie on something, I can be like, hey Susie, I saw that you want it for review. We can take a look at that whenever you're ready or something like that. It's gonna be very, it's gonna help us just kind of keep track of the project, kind of also quantify what we're doing, how we're doing our speed of the different assets, different mechanics that we're doing. It's just a little bit of a tool to track everything that we're doing, basically. Um, so yeah, that's gonna be the main thing that we can everybody can join up. I think we're only missing a few people. We have three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine. Yeah, there you go. We should be missing like one or two people, if anything, because I know like Zach might be in twice. Um, but yeah, after everybody joins, I'll be able to assign each person their different tasks, and after that, each department can kind of like work on their stuff like individually, and then we can reconvene at the end of every sprint, which, like I said, is a 2 week period, and we have different things due depending on the time. Um, and also feel free to, if anything, like for example, I know Sabrina's gonna be out of town from tomorrow up until like a little bit later into the week. So feel free to let me know. At the end of the day, it's a summer project. I know we all have our own stuff coming up. Like there's people that are taking like 4 classes. I'm taking, for example, like just one class. I got a lot more time. But just let us know whatever comes up, and then we can plan accordingly with the different tasks and stuff like that. Don't be afraid to like let either your department lead or just me as a producer let me know, and we can work through any changes on the schedule or anything like that that you might need. Um, but yeah, it's just kind of like an introduction to the ClickUp. Afterwards, I'm gonna meet with the art team, and then we can kind of talk about the art style and stuff like that. Just to give you guys an idea of what we're doing, like I said, with art, it's gonna be mostly like an art style practice, where we can give us like a first pass of kind of like the art style and stuff like that, and then we can reconvene and talk about like what everybody likes the best to kind of keep as the actual art style for the game. That's going to be mainly in like a week one thing, and then in week two we can move on to actually starting the production of some of the assets for the game. In terms of like coding, like I said, it's got like mostly functional stuff for the character controller. First of all, it would be like creating the GitHub and the Unreal project. Like I said, I think we already talked about it. We're gonna use GitHub for the version control, and we're gonna use Unreal. I think it's 5.4, the one that we're gonna
Hmm.
use. Yeah, and sorry. And yeah, it's gonna be, for example, for this first sprint in terms of the coding, it's gonna be character movement, combo architecture, the charge punch, the dodge, special dash like the run, a health system, death restart, and a basic attack like just one at least, and just a technical design doc. That's kind of like just to give you a rundown of what we are expecting from code, and then from design, it's gonna be the game design document, the track and field level block out, just like a first pass on that, sound design brainstorm, and then the basic menu implementation as well. Um, yeah, stuff like this could change depending, like I said, on everybody's availability and stuff like that. But this is just to have like a way of kind of tracking. And also, as like over here, you guys can see that there's a second list for sprint two. As a different sprint come up, there's gonna be just more and more like they're gonna be kind of like unlocking for everybody. Sprint two, three, four. Like I said, those are gonna be in implements of 2 weeks. So based on like where we're at, we maybe move on to a next spring, and then we still have some stuff that we gotta come back and take a look at or just finish up. It's just easy. Just go back to sprint one, just look at what has your name on it, and then you can be like, oh, okay, actually I still gotta work on this, or like it's waiting for review and stuff. It's that's gonna be kind of like the way that we're gonna be going at it in terms of tracking everything for the project. So yeah, I mean, in terms of like stuff that we gotta talk to everybody, that was kind of like the main thing, just kind of going over the ClickUp, how to kind of navigate it. If you guys have any questions, don't be afraid to ask me or
And
any of the leads.
um,
Yep.
can I add some tasks to the design thing? Because there's just some stuff that I just want to
Yeah, yeah,
clarify.
100%. Yeah, feel free to. I think you have the you should have like the different like controls or
Yeah.
whatever to be able to add them. Yeah. Um, like I said, anything that gets done, like gets touched in the ClickUp, any comment, any task that gets added, any task that gets like changed on status, I always get an email for it. So if anything, like just feel free to change stuff or like let me know if you want to change something, and we can talk through it and see what we can do about it. Um, but yeah, that's kind of it for the ClickUp in terms of like stuff that we're gonna be keeping in mind for this first 2 weeks. First thing is gonna be the contract. That's now that I believe I should have all of you guys' names. It's I'm gonna send that by the furthest like end of today, if anything. And like an e-signature is fine. You can literally just send me like a PNG of your signature if you want to do that, or like a picture. Honestly, like I said, it's nothing legally binding, but it's just kind of so we have an idea of kind of what we're expecting. I mean, just to give you like a little rundown of the contract, it's just like, oh hey, saying like, oh, we're gonna be working on this project for basically the whole duration of the summer, and obviously like the different assets and stuff like that, depending on the title that you have in the project. Different things are going to be expected of you, and failure to like consistently meet the tasks that are expected without proper like communication or anything like that will cause a warning, and then from the warning it can escalate into a fire, and if anything. But like I said, I know we have all our different schedules. This is just a student project. As long as we are just like serious about it and communicate if we have like any vacations or anything like that, we'll be fine. We can always work through different stuff. We can change scale depending on whatever. Um, just as long as everybody's comfortable with what they're doing, and between like it's all safe and we communicate, it's all good. Everything's gonna come out fine. So yeah, that should be the main thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of like the main points. I don't know if Zach, Jeremy, or Susie, you guys had anything that you wanted to add.
I'm good.
I'm mostly just gonna be talking with Jeremy and probably you about the solidified move set, as
Hmm.
well as I'm gonna throw enemy concepts at everyone just because I want to get everyone's input on that. But I think I'm good for right now.
Awesome. Yeah, sounds good. And I don't know if any of the rest of you guys, if you had any questions regarding the ClickUp, anything like that, how to join, how to, I don't know, like navigate anything. If there's anything that you guys have a question on, you can feel free to ask, or just like DM me later as well. Up to you guys.
Are we gonna have another meeting next week?
So right now, I believe next week, maybe not a general meeting. Um, I'm thinking now that you told me about like the enemy designs and stuff. I don't know if you want to maybe just like put the concepts in general and then we can talk about it, or
Okay.
do you
Yeah, yeah.
or yeah, or I do believe we're gonna have a weekly meeting for the art team definitely. So I don't know if like you can hop in if you want, since I don't see, I know like design is only Jeremy and you, like um we can hop in or we can do it in text. I mean, we can find a way to do it. If anything, I'll make an announcement
Okay.
for
Okay.
what the best way of moving forward with that is. Yeah. Also, how does this time frame work for you guys in general? Um, because I know I'm probably gonna be working some Tuesdays, so like this, like afternoon time is what works best for me personally. And I know most of my artists are also free like around this time in Tuesdays. But I don't know
For the
about the
most
rest.
part, I already told you, but I'm
Hmm.
available literally it for the rest of the summer. I'm available at any time except Friday through Sunday.
Yeah. Okay.
And it might change a bit Wednesday in the afternoon. Uh, but for the most part, oh, sorry, I've got a question.
Hmm.
When are you okay with the blockout being the last thing that me and Jeremy work on?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I think I actually might have put everything due for you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
they're
all
all
due on
due
the
on my
same day.
yeah, yeah. Just because I know the game design doc is gonna take a while, with
Hmm.
the different things that you guys gotta think about. But yeah, yeah. The first priority thing is gonna be the game design document, and then the blockout is definitely like the last thing that you guys can kind of come up with. Yeah, that's fine. Like I said, it's not gonna be like due on the 27th, but yeah, we'll talk about it as we go.
Okay.
Um, yeah, also for everybody else, I guess is there's no, I believe there shouldn't be any more questions. Um, and in terms of like how we're gonna be tracking the tasks, like other than being in ClickUp as well, for this is mostly for my artists because I'm gonna be the art lead as well. There probably are gonna be like either daily or like every 2 days kind of check-ins on DMs. I'm just gonna write you down like, hey, just checking in, how's everything going? If there's anything like just kind of seeing like, hey, do you have any like roadblocks that you're looking at, or when are you like what is the best time for you to kind of get started on your task or whatever. Just kind of like checking in. I'm gonna be checking in constantly just to make sure that everything's going fine, or if you need more time or anything, we can talk about it. So just keep that in mind. But it's gonna be the same thing. I know. Well, yeah, with Susie, with the coders, and with well Jeremy and Zach, they're both always texting as well, so it shouldn't be that much for them. But yeah, just kind of letting you guys know, kind of setting the expectation that it's the communication should be a little bit constant, either if not like every day, at least like every 2 days or maybe every 3 days, depending on like how your guys' time frame is working out. Um, but yeah, that should be it for the main meeting, I believe. Yeah, like I said, I don't know if you guys want to add anything else. Or if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. If not, like same thing, just feel free to DM me. If you want me to go over the ClickUp again or whatever, I'm not doing anything for the rest of today.
You're gonna go over what you want to do with the artist in the artist meeting, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah,
Okay, okay. I don't need to worry about that.
yeah. All right, I think I should probably record that as well,
Yes, you
just to
should.
kind of yeah, just to kind of leave a trail for
You
if
do.
anybody wants to take a look at that. But yeah, so that should be good for everybody that's not an artist. I know Zach and Jeremy, you guys are gonna go to a different voice chat to talk about design stuff as well.
Yeah.
I can probably join you guys if we finish up before you guys finish as well.
Okay.
But yeah, for everybody else that came in, thank you so much. Expect the contract to be coming to your either general or your DMs by the end of today. And yeah, just fill out the signature whenever necessary, like whenever you guys are able to do it. Thank you so much for coming, guys.
Okay. Jeremy, I'm gonna go inside the level design voice
Also,
chat.
also, Carlos, you
hmm
made a gnarly fucking gulp earlier.
Yeah, I know. I'm
I just
sorry.
wanted
I,
to
I,
point that
I,
out.
I I read the message
Just
and I
wanted to
started
point that
laughing
out.
Nope.
my ass off. I just muted it.
Nope.
I muted myself like taking the sip but not taking the gulp. So,
Oh, you gotta. It's just a headphone mic, right?
it has to be the headphone mic. Like I'm drinking
I
water.
Um,
mean, I mean, like you don't
Susie,
got like a
Susie,
normal mic. Yeah,
can you also add that email that I sent to the Google Drive, because my other one is the other email that I sent for that one is fucky.
got it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we should post the Google Drive link as well on
I did. It's
the.
just the way that
Okay.
it's set up is it's set to my one Google account that is full on storage and I
Ugh,
can't do
yeah.
anything.
That's all good. Yeah, yeah. No, I mean for
Yeah.
everybody else as well, so they can take a look
Yeah,
at
yeah.
like the documents that we got and stuff. But it's all gonna be in the ClickUp as well. So yeah, awesome. So we can get started. In terms of like the the artist meeting. Let me see. So just in that first print. Okay. So I do have the art style guide. Like I said, this is all kind of like we're kind of like just figuring it out as we go slowly. Um, but this is kind of like a first idea of what I have in terms of like the art style
Oh,
that I feel
I'm gonna
like
go
we
to the.
can go for and stuff.
I'll be back.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, let me see if everything's recording fine. Yeah. All right. So yeah, just kind of going through. Oh, let me see. I think it might have been it's on the wrong screen. Hold on 1 second. Okay. So yeah, just kind of taking a look at the different kind of principles and stuff like that that we're gonna be taking a look at for the art style of the game. Like I said, this is like I talked to Zach before. This is what I have in terms of like the direction that I have in mind. Um, it's all gonna be based on like how this first kind of art practice goes in this first week and a little bit of the second week. If you guys feel more comfortable like doing something a little bit different, we're gonna basically reconvene after the first week and kind of see where everybody's at. If everybody's comfortable, maybe switching it out a little bit, whatever we like the most in general, or you guys like the most because you guys are the artists, we can pivot definitely. But just to kind of give you guys an idea of what we are like the principles that I was thinking about for the art style. Um, Main thing was what we talked about before: low poly count models, basic bright and simple coloring and shading, in terms of, I'm gonna have an example of what I mean by that in the next slide, but it's basically like not necessarily getting too much into the weeds of like making try to make like photorealistic pixel art, if you will, like very um, detailed shading and stuff like that. I'm kind of thinking about it more in a way it's like a blend between like a Cartoon Network and cartoon and just like cell shading maybe, and like a new wave low poly pixel art indie games. I'll have a screenshot of a game like that like right after. And the main thing in terms of like creative direction is just keeping it lighthearted and goofy. I feel like there's not enough like lighthearted games out there, and the more kind of like lighthearted that we can keep it and just like make it like goofy and like funny, it's gonna be a very easy attention grabber for people that they look at our game, even like I don't know, like Twitter or like itch or like other people at UCF, whatever. It's gonna be a cool kind of way to like make them pay attention first before they look at anything else in our game, right? So this is kind of like an example. This game is Abyss X Zero. It's like an indie game that just like a few people I think are kind of like working on Twitter or whatever. And I've seen it before. I think I posted a picture of it before on like the first meeting that we had on the first little PowerPoint. But you can kind of get an idea of like the poly count and also like the shading style is definitely nothing like it's not photorealistic at all or like even like realistic. In terms of like the lighting, it's definitely more like closer to cell shading, more simple, more like striking lines. If yeah, kind of like a blend between like cell shading and actual like regular pixel art. And also like you can get an idea of like the poly count. I don't believe we're gonna be using like that kind of like PS1 filter on top of the game. I personally like how it looks like it's like an HD render of a low poly model. That's what I kind of feel like it looks a little bit more unique than just having it be like very like those jagged edges that for like the PS1 and stuff like that. Um, if anything, once we move into the engine and stuff, we're gonna be using a shader that's just gonna make the colors pop out more in general. Um, but yeah, this is kind of like a basic idea of the textures and the poly count in general. And in terms of the color palette for the backgrounds, I'm mostly thinking about like having bright and soft background colors. This picture of like Adventure Time as a reference might be a little bit too saturated, mostly because the way that the game is gonna move, it's gonna be very, or at least right now, it's gonna be very focused on mobility and moving fast. So I feel like it's a good idea to have very soft background colors that don't necessarily clash a lot with the player and the objects and enemies that the player is going to interact with. That kind of moves me over to my next point, which is the color scheme for the different things in the game. It's going to be mostly like more striking colors for higher importance items. Basically, the main three things that are going to be that our player is going to be interacting with is going to be, well, in the screen we're going to have the player himself. We're going to have the devils, which are going to be like the enemies in the game, and the interactables. It's going to be basically things like I said, I believe that last week I said something about having kind of like a pinball style movement where the player is just like bouncing around walls and stuff like that. So imagine like in pinball, you know how there's those little bars that whenever you go on them, they launch the ball upwards, or like there's like a little circle that whenever the player bumps into it, it just bounces them to the other way around. Those kind of items are going to have more striking colors compared to the background, so they can be read a lot better than if they just blended with like the light colors in the background. And in terms of like the families of the colors, that this is mostly talking about kind of like highlights and like the most striking colors from the items. It doesn't mean that every color that every item from from these different I guess divisions has to be just that color, right? The player is mostly going to be from the yellow, like the yellow, neon yellow family of colors. This is mostly going to be seen on the VFX as well, and I'm going to show that in a second. And the devils is going to be mostly like red, magenta, neon red, depending on how we end up going with the models. But that's also going to be just expressed through their texture in their body. And in terms of the world interactables, that's what I was talking about in terms of like those bumpers or like the bars and stuff like that. The different things that are going to be in the game, both that aid the player and like hazards in the level for the player. They're going to be having shades of blue and cyan depending on the purpose of it, like how much the player has to be aware of them and things like that. And of the world hazards, it's gonna be basically just darker red and warmer tones. World hazards, I'm thinking about things like spikes on the floor or like I don't know, like walled spikes and stuff like that that are gonna hurt the player if he gets close to them. Um, the main idea where I'm going at with all of this is just kind of having clear color distributions for different items so it's easier for the player to read what's going on at a high speed. And an example of the color scheme, it's going to be the main character. This is the design sheet for the main character. Um, even the yellow on this might have been, it looks maybe a little bit too washed out as well. It might be better to bump that up even more in terms of like the intensity of the color. I was working on this through my iPad and I think that the color kind of like didn't translate that well to the computer screen. Um, but yeah, in terms of the color, it's gonna be like primarily light blue on the shirt and stuff like that. But the points of interest, like his face, mainly, and like the VFX that are gonna be accompanying him as he moves faster and faster. Think like a Flash, kind of like the when the Flash runs, he has like that kind of like energy behind him, like yellow energy. That's the same kind of visual style that we're going for the VFX. So it's the yellow is going to be the thing that's going to be the mostly accentuated through the gameplay. And now moving over like the actual scenes that we're gonna be working on. Um, this is where the art style guide kind of gets onto the point of like where we're at right now, not necessarily like the whole game. I'm just talking about like the different scenes that we have, like the different. It's basically gonna be about four scenes for the game in general. For those that may not be too familiar with game design, it's gonna be the different scenes are like think about it like different levels or like different instances where the player is gonna be at. Right when the game starts, it's gonna be like a Heaven High School hallway. It's gonna be inside the high school. The player's just gonna be able to move, no combat, no nothing, just talking to the different students and stuff like that. Then we're gonna have a very short scene on the outside of the school in the courtyard, which is when the god of the universe is gonna give Agrios the Heaven Fist. There's gonna be a very very short sequence. Actually, we might even turn that into just like a 2D cutscene or something like that. And the third one is going to be the track and field club area, which is going to be the main bulk of the level, of the playable level of the game. And finally, the track and field coach arena. That's going to be the boss room, basically. Um, I'm still working on things like the designs for the devils and the boss and stuff like that. So I don't have that just yet. But by next week, I'm going to have all the design sheets ready so we can also take a look at those so you guys can have a better idea of like how those look as well, just in general. That have to do with so you guys can kind of like design the assets accordingly and stuff. So first of all, talking about like the point of interest in terms of the game, it's basically gonna be just to right now. First of all, we're thinking about the Heaven High School. Just to give you an idea in terms of like kind of like the design, the idea behind it is basically in terms of architecture, it's gonna mimic it like an anime Japanese high school building, like a typical just regular high school. But the first main idea is just like a halo on top of it, right? It's like, oh, it's heaven, it's a high school, but it's just in heaven, so it has a big, big halo on top of the whole thing. Um, so the actual building itself is going to be visible in small sections of the opening moments of the game. So probably in that courtyard or maybe even in the beginning of the playable level. Um, but the inside the building in the hallway, that's going to be the actual first section of the game, right? We're not going to be working on that first. The first thing that we're going to be working on, or like the first scene that we're going to be working on, is just going to be that playable level, right? That track and field space, basically. And in terms of the kind of like details and other ideas for the high school itself, like the actual model. Like I said, I'm open for more interpretations from you guys as the models develop. Remember those principles, like keep it goofy. Like if you guys, I don't know, if we think that it might be like a cool idea to like put wings on it, or I don't know, or like have different buildings like slightly flying a little bit from each other or something like that. Whatever you guys can come up with and you think it can be like a cool addition for it, like I'm completely open to hearing you out. At the end of the day, I'm just one person on this team. I think we're like what, like five, six artists in total. So it's all good if you guys wanna add anything to it, right? So yeah, in terms of like the clutter, furniture, and stuff that we're gonna have in the level, also for those that may not be so familiar with those game design terms, like well, I guess the game design terms is gonna be like clutter is mostly like those things that you can't really interact with, but that are just kind of there to like populate the level. It's like small details, like I don't know, like little trash cans and stuff like that, or like furniture. It's also talking about like things that block the player's movement. So this is things like maybe like I don't know, like a table, like a cafeteria table or something like that, right? Those are kind of like the distinctions that I have in terms of like the principle, like the different things that are going to be in those levels, the different models that are going to be in them. And just at the end, I just put like a little point with like a garbage can with a halo. That's just to kind of like a little like the smallest kind of idea of kind of what I'm thinking we could do in terms of like creating those clutter and furniture and stuff like that that maybe for a school, but giving them that small like heaven twist, right? Things like this that could be like I don't know, like a backpack that has wings. Like I said, like typical stuff that you might see like angels having. We can include that in the props as well, so it has like that kind of more idea that it belongs to the world of heaven, right? Like this heaven high school or whatever. And moving on from that, we have the second point of interest, which is going to be the main place for the level itself, or like the game itself, I guess, for what we're making so far. It's going to be the track and field, right? So in terms of architecture, in terms of the most basic idea of the space, like the bare bones part of the space, the foundation, if you will, it's going to be just like a simple layout of like a track and field zone with the neighboring areas. You can see like the little, the tiny, right over here, you can see like the tiny steps that are going up. You can see like just the track itself. Maybe we can put like a little soccer field or something like that over here. But this is just like a high level thing, right? It's not necessarily that the player just gonna go like just running around like that. We're gonna do the level layout on top of this, so it's probably gonna be something more like the whole level is gonna be this, or like most of the level. It's gonna be like this area right over here going through the track, but it's just gonna have like clutter and furniture and architecture that's gonna make it so the player has to move in different specific ways. Um, but yeah, that's kind of like just the base idea of that. And then in terms of the clutter and the furniture, I want you to guys to think about kind of like a post-apocalyptic level of clutter. Because remember, the whole plot of the game is that the devils came over, they trapped all the angels inside of their school, so they can't leave, and they're just kind of wreaking havoc over Heaven High School, right? So the main idea behind this is like all the devils are just going crazy with all the different things that were in the club, like I don't know, like the different like beds that those like the athletes jump over, or like those little things where you gotta like jump over them when you're in a race and stuff like that. All of those things are gonna be just thrown together everywhere because I don't know, the devils are just like savages and they don't care about anything, so they just like I just want to have like they just want to like be crazy and have a good time. I was initially thinking like imagine kind of like Mad Max in the sense of like that kind of like post-apocalyptic, very messy world where the stuff is just like thrown together and made up. Like it barely works in that in the way that it's thrown up now, but it's definitely not the way that it was intended. That's the kind of like direction that I'm thinking in terms of the clutter and the population of the level. And you guys can take that and also think about that in terms of how you wanna build your props, right? It can be like I don't know, like a bunch of different sets of those like javelins or something like that that makes up like a wall, or like a something I don't know, like a bunch of like a little container of like soccer balls or something like that that also creates that it's all very broken. The balls are like spilling over, stuff like that. Just think about imagine that if you got like a I don't know, like a pack of goblins basically and just went in there and just like went crazy on a bunch of like on a bunch of different items for a track and field club or like sports club in general. Um, so yeah, and the level layout is going to be created by this misplacement of several items. Kind of what I was saying is just like imagine like if you ever play like The Last of Us or something like that, you know that the way that you're moved through the level, it's from all of this kind of like misplacement of things that we knew in life before. Right, it's like a bunch of like cars toppled over that they can't let you go through the building, so now you got to find a way around it, right? That's kind of like the same idea in terms of like oh, this is so it's such a mess that Agrios has to take a very like different route, which is going to be the level layout of the actual playable space. But it's just something that you gotta keep in mind in terms of like what we're adding into this level, right? So like I said, this is gonna be the main kind of space that we're going to be working on. This is what we're going to be working on first when we actually get to asset production, when we settle on the art style for the different models and stuff. But now we can move over to what we're going to be doing specifically this sprint. Main thing that we're going to be doing this sprint is going to be the, like I said, the asset practice. It's basically just going to be about school clutter. Um, just what I want you guys to do for this first week and maybe moving into the next one as well. Just kind of think about mid-size items that you find at schools, right? I'm talking about like trash cans, pin boards, cafeteria tables with their chairs, lockers, clogs, signs, backpacks, etc. And basically just create a model with these stipulations that I said before, right? Basically keeping it lower poly, keeping it with pixel art textures, and that simple shading. Imagine like a Adventure Time, like a Saturday like Cartoon Network cartoon in terms of like the shading and stuff. Um, and like I said, this is what I'm putting you guys, like this is the assignment in quotation marks. But if you guys want to maybe make something a little bit more towards like your style or something that you think would look cool, go ahead. Like by all means, this is the best time to kind of experiment and see what you guys kind of like more, and you can bring into the project that maybe you've worked with before or something. And next week when we meet, we can just talk about like, hey, for example, I don't know. Imagine that I'm making the model and I made a low poly model, but I made it a little bit less pixel arty. I put more like a bigger pixel count on it, and I'm just like I just wanted to see something a little bit more detailed, right? And I put a bunch of like small, like different like details on it and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, and then we can talk about it. We can be like, hey, I like this. We like this a little bit more. This one, maybe it's not closer to the goals that we have, or just in general, whatever we as a collective decide um, it's gonna work the best in terms of like the principles that we have and what we can work on with our current skill level. That's what we're gonna settle on for all of the assets that are gonna be moving forward. Um, this is mainly going to be for the first week of the project. I believe that in the ClickUp, if you guys, I can pull that up for you guys real quick. Oh, let me see. Yeah, so in the ClickUp, I have a art style practice task for each one of you guys, and the first version of the practice is gonna be due next Monday. Like I said, if you guys have any scheduling conflicts or anything like that, just let me know. But the first part of this is just the creation of the asset would be next Monday, and then we can meet on Tuesday, talk about it and stuff. And the second part of it would be adapting it to an isometric point of view. Like we talked about on the last meeting, the game is going to be in an asymmetric point of view. So think about like, yeah, Hades is basically our biggest inspiration for this game. So the second week of that um, of this sprint is going to be basically taking the model that we made after we already have like the unified vision for what we want the style to be, and making it look good on mostly one angle. Like remember, asymmetric means that the player is going to be moving around a bunch, but the perspective of the environment is not going to move that much compared to the player. So just to give you an idea, this is all 2D, so it's not exactly the same thing that we're going to be working with, but obviously you can see like this spot right here, like this little building, you're able to see the front, but you're not able to see the back, right? So we wouldn't want to spend, I don't know, like 2 hours working on stuff in the back of this building that we're not going to be able to see in gameplay at all, right? So that's what the second week is going to be, just kind of like working more on the asset, getting it to that unified vision that we're gonna come up with on Tuesday after seeing everybody's practice, and being like, okay, how can I make this asset into something that's good to work on in asymmetric? Um, so yeah, that's pretty much everything that I have for you guys today in terms of like what I wanted to talk about. Again, if do you guys have any questions, anything that you want to mention, any concerns, anything like that, you can say it right now.
Yeah, no, I think like this is a really interesting and unique kind of thing that you guys want to do here, and I'm super down to try to um, kind of go down this path. I just for the pixel art textures, are we confined to like a specific resolution? Because you know you have like 32 by 32 64 by 64. Like, how much fidelity were you thinking these
Right.
textures should have?
So it's especially right now that we're just kind of starting out. If you want, like, if you guys want, you can take something that you feel comfortable with. I don't necessarily want to limit you guys in terms of like being like, I don't know, like just like 32 by 32. Because you can see, like, for example, in something like this model that I took as an example, this sword has a lot of detail on it, right? Like it's probably higher than something like a 32 by 32, like in terms of like the ratio of it. Um, so if you like, you can play around, see what you feel like looks right to you in terms of what you guys want to do, like how far. I don't know if you guys want to go crazy. Like some of you might want to do a little bit more and put a lot more detail on the model, or just leave it a little bit simpler and make it like slower. And then we can next week we can be like, oh, okay, like which one do we like more? Like which one looks a little bit better in terms of like what we're going for that. Again, just keep in mind the principles and then apply them in the way that you think might look the best. So it's kind of open for now that we're
Okay.
just kind of practicing with the art style. Yeah.
And I know that you mentioned that this game's going to be isometric. I assume then that we're going to be using a lot of culling methods, right? So like the back of models should not even have a face, right? Because that'll save a lot of performance. Um, it wouldn't, like you already mentioned, we shouldn't spend too much time on creating a
Yeah, like it.
360-degree
Mhm.
model.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
wanna I wanna see how the actual camera moves when once we have it in the engine.
Hmm.
So for the first part, if you guys want, like for this first week, like I said, um, if you guys want to put more detail on kind of like, for example, like the front on the of the model, I just want to see, because I know, for example, like in Hades, since it's 2D, it's really no way that you can look back into the models, right? But I want to see how Susie works in terms of the camera,
Right.
so we can see if maybe the sides of the models will be seen sometimes, right, or something like that. So we can I'm gonna write that down and we can take a look at that on week 2. I'll ask Susie about that.
Okay.
So when we're working on it, we can actually like take that into account. Yeah.
And real quick, just so that we're on the same page, what is everybody's role? Because
Yeah.
I know you told me what I'm going to be doing, but I don't
Hmm.
know like what everybody else is doing.
Yes. Give me 1 second. I'm just gonna get my notebook real quick. I wrote it all down. So, all right. So yeah, we've got Tori. They're gonna be our artist, well, 3D character artist. And also they're gonna be working with me in terms of looking at animation for the character as well. Rylan is gonna be mostly prop and hard surface, so dealing mostly with the buildings of the game and also with props. While you, Chandler, you're gonna be our environment artist. Just for now in the beginning, you're also gonna work with props, and I know Zach also told me that you like to make a lot of the props that you use as well. So we can work that into the distribution of the tasks, and also VFX. And Sabrina is gonna help us out doing props and 2D, specifically 2D cutscenes, because we want to do cutscenes in the game, but I think the best way to do it would be kind of like a comic book style, like just 2D, like 2D images that maybe they move a little bit, and that's about it. And we also have Sibos, and she's gonna be working on also texturing and 2D as well, mostly 2D character portraits. Yeah,
Okay.
those are the roles that we have right now.
Okay. Um, cool. And so we're just staying. I know you already showed the slide with the scenes. That's kind of just like what we're focused on right now. We're not trying to do anything more than that at this very moment.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Okay.
we definitely like once I was creating like the production plan, I don't have the whole thing planned out in detail yet.
Hmm.
But with it's a long time that we have 12 weeks for this project. So I kind of wanted to start small in terms of like the scope of it. This is just like the first 4 that we have an idea for, like the very small introduction for the game that we have. But imagine, like, depending on how the everybody's working, and if we can work on maybe like one more level or something like that, we'll add that, we'll like pivot from there. But from now,
Hmm.
this is what we got. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I definitely, I really do appreciate that you're having everybody kind of practice trying to adapt to this style. I think that's really smart because, like, I mean, I personally haven't worked in a style like this, so I think it's good for everybody to kind of at least try their hand first before we like get into the nitty gritty of things. But
Yeah, yeah.
I know that you mentioned that the game's going to progressively become more and more like chaotic. There's going to be more clutter, and I know you said like the demons are gonna, like mess up the area and whatnot. Were we thinking that that's more of like the outside area, the track and field
Yes,
area?
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So the inside of the school would stay kind of relatively neat.
yeah.
Are we
So
thinking?
so the way that we're thinking about it is that the beginning of the game, it's like, so the plot of the game is like it's supposed to be like this inter-school kind of like club meeting or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like where they both clash or whatever. Like they're supposed to just compete, but then the devils just trap everybody. So at the beginning, it's those beginning stages where nothing has happened yet. So
Okay.
the player's gonna be able to see like a generic like angel talking to like a generic devil and stuff like that. So there's gonna be a few like amounts of clutter that you would normally see in like a regular high school, but maybe a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it's like, oh, it's like everybody's moving, people are like buying food and stuff like that, like on the floor, whatever, um, yeah, like when you have like a, I don't know, like a fair at school or something like that. That's kind of like the level of clutter that we're thinking for that
Cool,
first
cool,
part.
cool. Okay.
Yeah.
And so then I'm assuming that like combat and stuff doesn't start until the player reaches that outside
Exactly.
area.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Track and field is going to be the main bulk of the game.
Of the
This,
game.
yeah,
Okay.
this Heaven High School hallway like sequence, we were thinking that like at the most maybe like a minute of gameplay of just like exposition, the player being able to talk to like different NPCs to get like some world building, and that's about it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much all I had.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. I know maybe somebody else has some questions.
Yes, I have a little beautiful question.
Hmm.
This might be a little too early for this question, but like, what are the thoughts on like the sound design? Like, is there any like specific person for that? Like, anybody experienced in making sound design? Do we want that in the game or staying away
So
from that?
yeah, so for now, we have one person, Zach, wants to try their hand at sound design, but
Mm-hmm.
I can definitely, like, if you wanna also help out with that, because I know you've done that before. You can definitely help out with that if you want. Like, I can talk to you like at work tomorrow about it, and I'll tell Zach too. So you guys can even like, I don't know if you want to make like tracks for the game or something like that, and then Zach can make like VFX or something.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
totally. Okay.
we can definitely work with that. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, cool, cool.
awesome.
Were
Yeah.
we thinking of having voice acting in the game?
Yes. So, well, it's
Oh
a
yeah.
yes. It's a yes, but right now, so it's definitely in the plans. But we have, for example, I know like Susie's girlfriend wants to voice act, and Susie has a few people that wanted to get like help out with voice acting. I know over here at UCF we have our recording studio, so we can definitely like if any one of us wants to do that voice acting stuff, we can definitely like get us in, right? Like we're gonna have plenty of like generic characters or anything talking through the game. And also, another character that I have for all these characters I've been talking about, like the basic devil, the boss.
Mm.
There's also gonna be, I call them like a Kakashi character. It's like a basically that typical. If you ever play like I think I said it last week, like Kid Icarus Uprising, like Palutena, that's always talking to you through the game. We're gonna have a character like that as well, so we also need a voice for them. That's basically just kind of like it's gonna be like the like class president character that she's like, oh my gosh, she's the, I don't know, like the top girl in the school, and is gonna be running through like running Agrios through like the different things that he has to do through the level. But yeah, there's gonna be plenty of characters that would need voices. If anything, when we do that, it's probably gonna be closer towards the end because it does
Right,
fall.
sort of a lower priority kind of.
Exactly. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely more towards like the flair end of things than anything else that we have to do. But yeah, we are thinking about doing it. Yeah.
Okay. And how many assets were you expecting? Because I do have a little bit more free time than I think maybe other people do. I'm not currently taking summer classes this
Mm.
summer. I still do work, and I told you that in DMs. But
Yeah.
as for like the things that I'm doing, I have this, and then I actually do have one other student group
Mm.
project.
Okay.
Um, but I think I already told, like, I can easily put 10 to 15 hours
Yeah.
per week towards this. So if there was like a certain amount of assets that you want for the practice, or did you want us to kind of just like take our time making one like really solid asset?
So I would say definitely leaning towards the take your time, especially because
Okay.
it's the practice. But from there, I know that we have what like four different artists that are gonna be doing proper like model related stuff. So I know that there's gonna be, and most of you guys said that you have like from like 8 to 15 hours a week. So that's a long time. Like I know you guys have a lot of time to work on stuff for this project. So I wanna start out a little bit slower in terms of like the model count, but also like this. I also decided on the kind of like post-apocalyptic type level of clutter because I know we have so many people in the project. So if we want to move towards like if like depending on how quickly we can turn out the models, and if you guys feel comfortable with like adding more and more, the model count can go up, right? It's not set in stone for now. Um, so especially right now with the practice, let's just do one big good model, like, oh well, not big, but like one good specific model that you guys want to work on, that you feel passionate, that you feel good about. And then we'll move forward. We can start a little bit slower in terms of like the number of models, and if you guys feel like you have more time, we can churn out more. You know, like we can assign more as we go.
Cool. And does anyone have like a good tutorial or a good documentation for making pixel art or pixel textures for 3D models? Because again, this is not something that I've done before.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
I definitely have. I'm gonna link a few that I found useful. So full disclaimer, I'm not like a 3D artist. Like I haven't put as much time into like 3D work as I'm pretty sure like most of you guys have. I'm mostly 2D personally, but I can put down like some of the tutorials that helped me, and I have some other friends that have also worked with pixel art stuff, so I'll ask them as well. I'll put
okay.
those in the artist chat. And yeah, we can work through it from there, but those should be like a good idea. It should have like at least like a kind of like an idea on how to set up like the pixel count and stuff like that to work on those the pixel texture specifically. Yeah.
Also, I what is it? I posted a link to a thing you can buy as like a tool for Substance Painter that seems to work pretty well for making pixel art textures. Like there's a video called Two Pipes. I don't know if anyone's seen that.
Yeah,
But
that does look really good. It just does seem I know Carlos was saying not to go we're not trying to do too much detail in these models. So I was
well, it's
wondering like
you
if
can
there was a
modify
way
it
you
though.
can modify it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
I
was
mean that
used
would
to
be
make this video. If
cool.
everyone's seen that.
Hmm.
Um,
Awesome. Yeah.
but yeah,
So. Mhm.
oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say again, like, yeah, since this is a practice,
Okay.
just work on whatever you guys feel comfortable with. If you want to like go crazy on the details and make something like super detailed or whatever, like just kind of make it like work as like try to make a model that you would turn out as a regular model for the project, right? Like if you think that, for example, in a week you're gonna have like just this is just a random example, right? Like 8 hours to put into one model. Don't put like 16 on this one, right? But you guys can work under the limitations that you want, and then we'll decide what works best for everybody next week.
And you mentioned we're not doing any sort of visual distortion, no PS1 shaders or anything like
No,
that.
no, yeah.
Okay.
The only shader that I think we're gonna put on the game, well, we're definitely gonna do. We're gonna
Cell
try to
shading, right?
exactly something closer, more akin to cell shading compared to like realism. Yeah. I still gotta talk to Susie to see like which one exactly we're gonna settle on, but yeah, since this is all practice, don't worry about lighting for now. Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome. Is there anybody else that had any questions or anything like that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I was unfortunately distracted with a customer for the part when it comes to like the drawing, and we're like trying to kind of emulate the style that you put for the art portion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, can I get like a refresher on that?
Oh yeah, I actually forgot to say that. So that's thank you for that. Um, Basically for the two D artists that we have, it's Sibos and Sabrina. You guys are also gonna have in terms of the secondary like second half of the week. You guys are also gonna have a practice assignment, I guess you could say, for trying to get not as close as possible. Like obviously you guys all have your specific styles, and that's completely fine. But basically trying to get close to what the design sheet models are for the 2D art, right? I mean, for this one right now, I have Agrios's design sheet ready, By the end of this week, I'm gonna have the design sheets for everybody else, for all the other models or like the main models for the game. Um, so it's up to you guys if you wanna wait a little bit more, if you wanna make something like it could be probably like just like a drawing or two of the characters. Just trying to get close to this art style, but also like I know for example that Ceebles you have like a more kind of like Disney type style. Like you can definitely still keep your own kind of signature style, right? Just trying to the way that I'm thinking about it is that it's a style you guys can obviously have your own styles and that's completely fine because nobody's gonna look at this concept in the game, but still try to like get a little bit close to it so it's not jarring for the players once they see like imagine that they look at Agrios in a cutscene and he's like I don't know like green with 1,000 spikes, right? And then you go into the low poly and he has like a hat or something like that, right? Like that's kind of like what I'm looking for. Um, just getting as close as you can, like closer to to the style that I have in the design sheet, just in the way that the player, like somebody that's never seen the model in the game and your drawing can tell that they're the same character. That's kind of where I'm going with that. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and like I said, you guys can work on this either first or second week. I would say probably second week is would be a better idea. Obviously, depends on your availability, but the I'm gonna have the rest of the design sheets by the beginning of next week, and we can go over them on the meeting as well. But yeah,
Okay, cool. And like for the drawings, like would you want us to make like concept art sort of drawings for like the practice, or just drawing the guy right there, smack dab in the middle of the sheet, and like that's it? If that makes sense.
if yeah, I mean, if you want, if whatever's easier for you to work with, towards your next like whatever you're gonna be doing, right? Like for example, for
Hmm.
Siebel's, it's probably good to do like an expression sheet or something like that. Since she's gonna be working on more of just like portraits and expressions and stuff like that in terms of the 2D. But for you, maybe you want to do something a little bit closer to like a full body, right? Or maybe like two, three full body like movements or like something
Yeah.
like a not walk cycle, but like the character walking or like moving or doing something. So it's a little bit easier for you to kind of get accustomed to how the character looks for when you gotta draw them in those like doing those things, right? In the cutscene.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, gotcha.
yeah. All right. So does anybody else have any other questions? All right. So I guess if everybody's good, so for like I said, one more time, a little bit of a reminder for this week's objectives. Tonight I'm gonna have the contract. You guys can send me like a just read it over. Let me know if there's anything like you don't agree with or anything like that. But it should be pretty straightforward. And it's just kind of like a way of being like, hey, we're gonna do this. If you can communicate with us if you have any issues or anything, it's gonna be fine. But if there's no communication and there's like it happens constantly, like we do have the right to kind of like decide as a group to just to stop working with you. And also, if you guys could DM me what you guys are thinking, just by you can leave it by the end of tonight. I'm gonna give you guys like a whole day tomorrow. I'm probably not gonna like write a check-in, but then on Thursday. I'll have a checking, like I'll just DM each one of you, like being like, hey, how's it going? Like, have you been able to think about or like work on the model? If there's anything like that stopping you, that you need help with or anything like that, we can talk through it, right? Just to kind of see how everything's going. But yeah, for tonight, it's gonna be contract. I'm gonna send it to you guys. You can sign that at your earliest convenience. And also, if you have an idea, or if you can think of the idea for that clutter, like I said, remember it's school clutter. I'm gonna post the slide on the Discord as well on our little artist channel, so you guys can get refreshed on that. And I put like the little list of stuff that you can find at school, but you can also go outside of it. You can think about something different. Just if you can think about it by today, by the end of today, you can let me know, just so I can like write down what you're doing, and then we can keep going from there. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for the first week. We're probably gonna have a meeting next week, same time. Um, Pretty sure, so we can talk about, like I said, the models and the art style, and then some of the other outlying questions that we have. But yeah, that should be about it. Thank you guys for coming, and yeah, have a good one, guys. I'll see you guys next
Yeah.
week.
See ya.
Bye.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.
See ya.